Hello, my name is Stan Gertler, and I'm here to present work that Ian Goldberg and I did regarding privacy-preserving reputation systems at the University of Waterloo. To set the stage, I'd like to briefly discuss the Internet more widely. We like to make grand proclamations about the Internet, and certainly the Internet has had a significant impact on the world as it develops and matures. Where we enter this work is in the impact the Internet has had on connecting people, whether that be to other people, to services, to information, or anything else. There's a class of Internet-enabled technology that we call disruptive, because it disrupts some already existing industry or similar. In many cases, such disruptive technology hinges on its ability to connect people to information. If I'm selecting between products on Amazon, I need to know how good the product is. Generally, such information is conveyed via reputation, some abstract measure of quality or reliability. In contrast to these disruptive technologies, some individuals who analyze the Internet also point to what they term disintermediative technologies, or technologies that serve to connect people to other people in new ways. This can take many forms, but is best exemplified in places like forums for small communities often separated by great deals of space and similar. Whereas for a time it was difficult as, say, an LGBT person to meet and discuss with other LGBT people about relevant issues, the Internet has often made it easier for such individuals to become connected. To mediate such connections, reputation again is often used to encourage desirable community behavior. In both of these cases, the integrity of these connections is of great importance. People want to be sure that the reviews of a product on Amazon are legitimate, and people want to know, when interacting in community settings, what an individual's reputation is, to help determine if they may be acting in bad faith. This is, at times, at odds with privacy. What does it mean, for example, to trust an anonymous user? In this work, we highlight and analyze previous work that has in different ways attempted to bridge these two ideas. The rest of this talk proceeds as follows. We will discuss the methodology we use to select previous work for analysis. We will define some terms, particularly in areas where previous work has not yet converged. We will discuss specifically reputation functions, which are the methods by which aggregated votes for reputation are reduced to a displayed score. We will discuss our systematization of the previous works and the implications of the categories we chose. We will suggest opportunities that future research may engage in, and finally we will conclude. There have been a number of academic papers which address privacy-preserving reputation systems in some capacity. In order to select as wide an assortment of appropriate works as we could, we began with a seed paper, a non-rep towards tracking resistant anonymous reputation, presented by Zhai et al. Searching through all papers that it cited, and all papers that cited it, we selected papers if and only if they described a system that supported a vote operation of some kind, and they preserved at least one of our recognized privacy properties. This process was iteratively repeated with the found papers until convergence was reached, whereupon we had found 42 systems described across 45 papers. On to terminology. To now, previous work has not converged on a set of standard terms, and each individual work's definition of terms at times obscures aspects of underlying design. Throughout this work, in various sections, we will be using 3 terms specifically that we need to define up front. A user in the system who provides an opinion on another user, typically in the form of some kind of vote, is termed a voter. The user who is being judged is termed a votee, and occasionally, a user will want to know the reputation of another without passing judgment. Such users are requesters. Getting into more specifics, there are 3 key areas of inconsistency in previous works: architecture, reputation directionality, and privacy properties. In order to guarantee the integrity of reputation scores, privacy-preserving reputation systems have a variety of techniques, which we classify in 3 broad manners. The most common is third-party mediation, and most commercial reputation systems, such as Amazon, work this way. A trusted third party collects votes, reduces them to a score, and then reports that score. Other works employ what we term ephemeral mesh topology. In such works, requesters communicate directly with voters, interacting with a set of them to receive a score reached between that set. You might imagine something like considering an applicant to a position by checking the opinions of their references and others you know and trust to pass judgment. More recent work employs proofs of validity, where the system enables a votee to report their score directly to a requester, because it is guaranteed by some form of proof. You might imagine something like accepting a document from an individual because it bears a specific stamp or watermark. When discussing reputation, it can apply in different ways depending on the system. We highlight three different directions that reputation can flow. In a simplex reputation system, there are two distinct sets of users, who we might call customers and sellers, and the system only allows for a customer to pass judgment on a seller. Amazon, as a well-known example, would be best described as simplex. In a half-duplex reputation system, these two distinct sets of users are still present, but both may judge each other. eBay, where customers review sellers on delivering their goods and sellers review customers on honestly providing payment, is a good example of a half-duplex system. Finally, in a full duplex reputation system, the distinction between users is not present, such that there is only one set, peers. Reddit, where different users all rate each other for their posts, is a good example of a full duplex system. Various privacy-preserving reputation systems seek to protect different things. We identify 4 privacy properties in total, 2 which apply directly to voters and 2 which apply directly to votees. Among the voter-specific privacy properties, voter vote unlinkability discusses whether or not an individual voter can be linked directly to a vote which they cast for a votee. Relatedly, 2-vote unlinkability discusses whether or not, upon investigation, somebody reviewing 2 different votes in a system could determine whether or not they were made by the same individual. Among the votee-specific privacy properties, reputation usage unlinkability discusses whether or not a votee can, in some manner within the system, refer to their valid reputation score, without making it so that each time they do so, they link themselves between each usage. Exact reputation blinding discusses whether or not votees must divulge the exact reputation score they bear when they use it, or whether they can fuzz it in some manner. With those terms in place, we move on to a discussion of reputation functions. In all reputation systems, there is typically some way to aggregate the opinions of users into one displayed score, and this is done by a reputation function. We classify reputation functions into one of 2 categories: voter agnostic and voter conscious. In a voter agnostic reputation function, the function does not differentiate votes by whether or not the same user cast them. That is, if one voter casts multiple valid votes for one votee, they would all count separately. We term the main 2 such functions accrue stars and average stars, though they would just as well be known as sum and mean. In accrue stars, votes typically take the form of positive or negative, and a votee's score is the number of positive votes minus the number of negative votes. Reddit is a good example of such a system. In average stars, votes typically take the form of a number, often between 1 and 5, and a votee's score is the mean of these numbers. eBay is a good example of such a system. In voter-conscious reputation functions, the general principle is that only the most recent vote that a voter gives for a specific votee will count. That is, they can update their opinion as much as they like, but they only get one input per votee. In short-term memory consensus, such as something like Yelp, whenever a voter casts an update vote, the previous vote no longer bears any weight on the score. In long-term memory consensus, on the other hand, at various times a votee's score is recorded, and after an update vote occurs, the new resulting score is then averaged in some way with the previously recorded score. From there, we now discuss our actual systematization. We compared the collected works on various measures, such as what form their architecture took, what privacy properties they provided, and what reputation functions they supported. Further, we grouped works into one of 5 core categories. These are coin-based reputation systems, signature-based reputation systems, reputation transfer, secure multi-party computation-based reputation systems, and ticket-based reputation systems. Ticket-based reputation systems are further divided into 2 subgroupings: trusted third party and public log. We will now look at each grouping in turn, along with the relevant portion of our comparison chart. The full detail of this chart can be found in the paper itself. In a coin-based reputation system, a typical interaction proceeds as follows. Alice and Bob interact under pseudonyms. Alice forms an opinion of Bob and decides that she wants to reward him, so she does so by gifting Bob a token, or rep coin, that Bob can then hold on to in some manner. When Bob seeks to display his reputation, he merely attests to the number of rep coins that he holds in some verifiable manner. The work by Andrew Locke et al. Is a strong example of coin-based system. In a signature-based reputation system, a typical interaction proceeds as follows. Alice and Bob interact under pseudonyms. Alice forms an opinion of Bob and decides that she wants to reward him, so she does so by providing a signature on something for Bob. The signature is constructed in such a way that Bob can attest to the number of unique signatures that he has received, but duplicates are ignored. This number of unique signatures represents his reputation score. Signatures of Reputation by Bethencourt et al. Is a good example of this type of reputation system. Reputation transfer systems typically abstract the actual methods of voting and making scores. Instead, these works focus on one specific problem, namely, that having only one pseudonym for the entire length of participation in a system is only a minor upgrade from using one's true identity. Because of this, there is no typical full interaction for this approach. However, all works within this approach feature some procedure for votees to generate new pseudonyms that inherit the reputation of their previous pseudonyms. Typically, there will be specific time points that votees can request a trusted third party to strip an old pseudonym from their score and bind it to a new pseudonym. RUP by Miranda and Rodriguez is a good example of such a system. In a secure multi-party computation-based reputation system, a typical interaction proceeds as follows. Alice wants Bob's score so that she can determine whether or not she will interact with him. She asks Carol and Dave their opinions of Bob, and they work together to composite a score for Alice, without revealing to Alice what their individual votes were. Alice decides to interact with Bob, and forms her own opinion of him, in case she is later requested for it. Decentralized Additive Reputation Systems, or DARS, by Pavlov et al. Is a good example of such a system. In a ticket-based reputation system, a typical interaction proceeds as follows. Alice and Bob interact under pseudonyms. Alice forms an opinion of Bob, and decides that she wants to share it. As part of their interaction, Alice and Bob exchange tokens, or tickets, that they can redeem as proof that they actually interacted with each other. This is where the two subgroupings of ticket-based systems diverge. In a trusted third-party ticket-based system, Alice caches this ticket with a trusted third party, who holds onto the vote and aggregates it with others for Bob, reporting the aggregated score. In a public log ticket-based system, Alice instead publishes her vote publicly, along with the ticket, such that any requester can verify the ticket and aggregate together the votes. Among TTP ticket-based systems, the work by Boyd et al. Is a good example, and among public log ticket-based systems, Beaver by SoK et al. Is a good example. With these categories in place, we believe it is valuable to talk about the various trade-offs that each category provides, due to the shared features of their underlying design. In coin-based and signature-based systems, votee privacy properties are frequently provided, which is otherwise rare. In both cases, however, their design makes implementing reputation functions difficult, and often they are very limited in what they can provide. In both signature-based and SMC-based systems, the systems tend to be very decentralized, and limited trust is placed in any single party. Regarding just SMC-based systems, because voters must be able to respond to requests for a given votee's reputation score, votee privacy properties are difficult to implement, and such systems typically require voters to always be online. Ticket-based systems have a great deal of variety. In TTP ticket-based systems, there's typically much flexibility in terms of what privacy properties can be provided and what reputation functions can be employed, as using a trusted third party makes many of these questions much simpler. However, they of course rely on some level of centralization, with varying amounts of trust placed on these central servers. Public log ticket-based systems, on the other hand, do tend to be fairly decentralized. Note that, though, they are subject to the same concerns around hijacking consensus that blockchains typically are. Public log ticket-based systems, like SMC-based systems, have difficulty implementing votee privacy properties. In discussing these systems, Of course, one of our main goals is in determining what research gaps, if any, exist, that we may fill them with future work. To this end, we identified three main points that we believe are important and useful moving forward. First, decentralization does not have to mean blockchain. This may sound pithy, but a great deal of recent work has focused on blockchain approaches to reduce centralization in systems. This makes sense, though blockchain approaches have significant limitations, even when ignoring the concerns around blockchain itself. In raising this point, we particularly mean to highlight that decentralization includes methods that distribute trust across multiple central nodes, and we note a few such examples in the paper. Decentralization is valuable, but it must be undertaken in concert with other goals for what a privacy-preserving reputation system can provide, and there is still a great deal of interesting research to be done on how systems moving forward can be decentralized even without blockchain. Second, reputation usage unlinkability and voter-conscious reputation functions would make a particularly potent combination when used in community settings. In places like forums, offering increased anonymity may be of considerable value, so long as it is balanced against its misuse. In these sorts of limited settings, where users are more likely to interact with each other regularly, voter-conscious reputation functions are most meaningful, as the derived score reflects an actual knowledge of the community about an individual. If in this setting, a votee cannot earn positive ratings from a reasonable number of voters, it seems reasonable to conclude that said votee may not be a good fit for, or is not acting in good faith within, a given community. Few academic works have explored this particular combination to this point, and future work could be fruitful. Finally, at this time in the literature, reputation is limited to applying by and to individual users. There are two important ways the literature could expand its uses for reputation. First, a votee's rating could be decided by specific subsets of voters. Knowing the opinions of multiple different groups may be valuable to a requester. Second, in no systems in the literature does reputation refer to the opinions of voters towards a group of votees. These votees might represent, for example, all the sellers of a certain kind of product, and reputation would indicate satisfaction with that kind of product overall. Expanding reputation beyond the individual holds promise for new research in multiple directions. In this work, we systematized 42 privacy-preserving reputation systems. We raised issues of inconsistent terminology in the literature. We identified important trade-offs inherent to design choices among systems, and we identified three key areas where research can go further. Privacy and reputation, though at times in tension with one another, can be matched together in ways that could have significant impact. With that, thank you for your time and attention.